Hi everyone! Now you may or may not have noticed that for most of my videos I tend to use a lavalier mic. Yes, one of these little things that clip to my clothing. Why, I hear nobody ask? Well, they're discreet and they're quick to set up. Why am I suddenly talking about mics instead of camera gear? Well, because I really wasn't very happy with the sound quality of my last video, if I was absolutely honest. I had to tweak it to get it anywhere near. Anyway, so I thought I'd look around to see what else is out there. My usual mic is the Rode SmartLav Plus. Therefore, the most logical place to look was Rode's own website to see what they said about their other lavaliers. Now, at this point, I have to quickly say that I'm not sponsored by Rode, though by the end of this video you'll think I should be, and I haven't had any communication with them either. I'm also not a sound engineer, so there'll be no playing with sliders and dials and adjusting the sound. What you'll hear is how they sound straight out of the box, as I say. But because the camera preamps are absolutely notorious for producing, so we say, interesting results, different results, I'm recording directly to this. It's a Zoom H5 recorder, and as it's designed purely to record, the quality is of course very good. It's actually very good indeed. Now, as far as Rode are concerned, to be honest, I hadn't realised they made so many different mics, and they individually describe them as broadcast, premium and professional. So what's the difference between them all? There's only one way to find out, so I bought them all. Please don't tell my wife. From pricing high to low, I'll be testing the Rode Lavalier, which starts at around £110, and they describe that as broadcast. The Rode Lavalier 2, £87, described as premium. The Rode Link Lav, £82, professional. The Rode Go Lavalier, £65, professional. And the Rode SmartLav Plus, £55, and they describe that as broadcast, and I'm using it now. Now, while we're going down in price, I've also got the Sony ECM LV1 for £32 and the Boya BY-M1 for £14, just to see if they can compete. So today, let's have a listen to how they compare, and at the end, I might just find myself a new mic, you never know. Anyway, I'll be reading the same part of one of my old scripts to test, and to make the whole thing go a little bit smoother, I'll be putting them through a switcher. It's passive and adds no noticeable background noise. And if you want to compare, check out the first part of this video, which was actually a direct line straight to my H5. So while I sort out the mics, here's your opportunity to pop back to before I mentioned the H5. I bet you can't tell the difference, switcher or not. Okay, this rather strange contraption is the only way I can think of to actually make sure that all the microphones are the same distance from my mouth, or from me. So once I've finished with this microphone, which is the Rode Lavalier, I will drop it and bring the next one, which will be the Rode Lavalier 2, and clip it in the same place. This won't move, I won't move. That's the reason why I've got the switcher, because all I've got to do is lean over here and switch to the next microphone. So yes, so hopefully this will work. So let's get started with the script. We were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Okay, that's the Lavalier, the Rode Lavalier, directly into the H5. So time to switch over to another mic. So I'll say goodbye to this one. Okay, this is the Rode Lavalier 2, as I said. As you can see, nothing's moved. It's in exactly the same place. We were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister. The Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Okay, so that was the Rode Lavalier 2. Okay, I'm going to now move over to the Rode Link Lavalier. So I should drop this one. As you can see. As you can see, it's now in the same place. So, and this is the Rode Link Lavalier. Okay, we were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Okay, that was the Rode Link Lavalier. So I don't know whether you guys can hear any difference at the moment. I certainly can't because I haven't listened to it. Okay, I shall now move over to the Rode Lavalier Go. Switch the switcher. Now I should be talking through the Rode Lavalier Go. Okay, we were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Imagine that. Good grief. Anyway, that was the Rode Lavalier Go. And now I'm going to switch over to the last Rode mic, which is the Rode Smart Lav, which is the one I normally use. Okay, this is obviously the one I started with, so it'll be interesting to see how this compares to the others. We were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time, and nobody had heard of an iPhone. Okay, so, by the way, there's marks for those who can work out what year that was by the end of the video. Okay, so I'm now going to switch this over to a different mic entirely. And this is the Sony. So let's see how this compares. If you remember rightly, it was a lot cheaper. So we were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Okay, that was the Sony. Now I need to do a bit of a swap round because my switch is only 6 in and I've got 7 microphones. So, hold that thought. Okay, I should now be getting something through. Yes, I'm now getting something through. This is the Boya. You have to switch it off, switch it on if you're going to do it like this, because you switch it off if you use it in a phone. Different system, I guess. It changes from TRRS to TRS is my guesswork. Anyway, so this is the ridiculously cheap Boya for £14. Okay, we were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time, and nobody had heard of an iPhone. As you see, this hasn't moved, I haven't moved. This is the same position for each microphone. Now, if you're like me, not sure what the first one sounded like, which I think was the Rode Lavalier, because it seems to be such a long time since doing this one and the first one, it's not a problem because once I listen to them, I'm then going to do a bit of cut and pasting, so you'll hear them back to back. Okay, so I'll see you in a bit once I've heard everything. We were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Okay, we were using Windows XP and Photoshop CS2. Tony Blair was still Prime Minister, the Ford Focus was the best-selling car, and Robbie Williams topped the British charts, which included digital music for the first time. And nobody had heard of an iPhone. Well, I don't know about you guys, but apart from the Sony sounding fuller and the Boya a little bit thin, there's no discernible difference between the Rode mics. I've tried various speakers, headphones and AirPods, and they just sound the same. Maybe the Rode Lavalier has a little bit more presence, but considering the price difference between that and the Boya, it's not exactly £100 worth. I'm starting to wonder if the problem wasn't with the Lavalier, but with the preamp, namely the Z8 preamp. So if I now connect my original mic, the one I'm using now, the SmartLav Plus, with a direct line to the camera, how does it compare to the Zoom H5, the Z9 or the Sony ZV-1? I'm going to read another part of one of my scripts and see how they all compare. So starting with this mic directly to the Zoom H5, here we go. Peter Capaldi was still Doctor Who, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and Revenge of the Sith were topping the cinemas. But by then, digital had taken the ball and was massively dominating the game. The poor old film cameras were left to clean out the changing rooms. Peter Capaldi was still Doctor Who, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and Revenge of the Sith were topping the cinemas. But by then, digital had taken the ball and were massively dominating the game. The poor old film cameras were left to clean out the changing rooms. Peter Capaldi was still Doctor Who, and Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire and Revenge of the Sith were topping the cinemas. But by then, digital had taken the ball and was massively dominating the game. The poor old film cameras were left to clean out the locker rooms. Well, I'm really pleased that I did that test. I think it answers the question of sound quality. The preamp in the Z9 is a bit plasticky and thin, but the Z8 is muffled and sort of muddy. It's pretty disappointing, to be honest, and it's a surprise that it's different to the Z9. The other difference between the Z8 and Z9 is, although they were both set to the mic volume of 9 within the camera, the Z8 had to be adjusted by minus 1.33 and the Z9 to plus 68 to balance within the software. The Sony and the H5 are similar and much more bright and natural. In the future, I think I'll be keeping the Rode Lavalier and using it through the Zoom H5 like I am at the moment. Don't forget that Boya though, what a bargain for the price. I'll also be doing more mic comparisons, but don't worry, I've got another lens video coming as well as a monopod comparison. If you like this video, then please like it and share it with your friends. And if you really liked it, then please subscribe. Until next time, bye.